Welcome to Cash Up, a weekly show where we converse with amazing folks in DFIR. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Dr. Aury Curbelo. Aury is an experienced researcher, professor, digital forensics examiner, and cybersecurity professional. Her areas of research include information security, malware, and the Internet of Things. Currently, Aury is an entrepreneur performing cybersecurity risk assessments. Prior to starting her own business, she was a professor at the University of Puerto Rico, where she taught for 18 years. Prior to her current company, Aury was a senior information security executive for both CP Corp Inc. and Digitech. Aury earned her PhD in Human and Community Resources Development from The Ohio State University, where she focused on studying the design of audiovisual media and information technologies. She earned her Master of Science from the University of Puerto Rico and has studied Computer and Information System Security and Information Assurance at the University of Fairfax. Aury holds several certifications, including the Certified Social Media Intelligence Analyst, SMIA, the Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, CHFI, the Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH, the CompTIA Security Plus, Network Defense Professional, CNDP, and Cybercrime Forensic Investigator, CCFI, and many more. Aury has published scores of content in both English and Spanish, including in academic journals and at conferences, on a variety of topics from IoT to blockchain technology to malware as a service to the dark web to improving technology education, both by using technology for education and teaching technical topics such as the design of ethical hacking courses for computer and information systems students. Her work has been presented at conferences around the world, including the International Association for Computer Information Systems, IASYS, the annual conference of the Americas on AML Risk Management, LACCEI, the Latin American and Caribbean Conference for Engineering and Technology, IFC, the Magnet Virtual Summit, and many more. Aury's work has been recognized as an International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium, ISC Squared, America's Information Security Leadership Awards, ISLA, Up-and-Coming Information Security Professional Award nominee. Aury has also been recognized for her community work, including with the ISC Squared Community Services Star Award for developing a cybersecurity awareness campaign for teens in Puerto Rico. Aury is a role model to the community with both her technical depth and her devotion to sharing her research and educating others. And with that, I'm excited to be joined by Aury. Hi, Aury.
Hi, Jessica. I am so glad and happy to be here to share with you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a
Thank
blast.
you. Thank you for joining us. You do so many inspiring things with technology. Your exploration of technical topics is incredible. You've taken your skills, earned a PhD, and then found ways to give back to the community. How did you get here?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I have a very nice quote that lead me through my journey. It's from Teddy Roosevelt, and it said, "Complain about a problem without proposing a solution, it's just called whining." So I decided in one point of my life that I want to be part of the solution. So my first love, put the seatbelt on, my first bachelor degree was in agriculture. I'm an agronomist. Yeah.
Wow.
I started in agriculture. I graduated from the College of Agriculture in Puerto Rico in entomology, which is the art and the protection of plant based on specialized in insects. Yeah.
Wow.
And how a person from agriculture moved to technology. That's a very interesting story. While I was studying in college, information technology always caught my attention. I wanted to introduce the use of technology into the agriculture field. So I kind of matched both bachelor, and I ended one bachelor in agriculture and a second bachelor degree in information technology.
Wow.
Crazy, no? And then one day when I was doing my master degree, I came across with cybersecurity in my research. And this is a love story. I fell in love with the cybersecurity field. And we had a great relationship for so many years, Don't get me wrong, cybersecurity was my first great love, and we have a good time together. But one day, when I was teaching in the University of Puerto Rico, my information technology courses, I invite one ICE investigator from the Office of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And I asked him to give a lecture to my students about the crimes, about how they solve crimes there. And he talked about digital forensics.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard what he was doing in terms of solving crime, in terms to protecting against children's violence against children's, I decided, wow, that was a love at the first sight. And then I believe that that was my true love. And then I just get crazy about that. When he was talking about, I have this epiphany. I picture myself doing research, investigation. I mean, working hand on hand with this group of people, and I decide, you know what? I'm gonna study this. At that point, I was holding a PhD, so I came back to school, University of Fairfax, and started a postdoctorate program, and I specialized.
So at this point, you have 4 degrees, including a PhD,
Yes,
and you're teaching cybersecurity. You
at
bring up
university.
in an ICE investigator to show the application of cybersecurity in cyber investigations, and you're like, "What? This is the place where I want to apply my technology. I'm going to go learn more and go back to school again for postgrad."
I did that.
Wow!
I did that.
Wow!
So, and doing that, I also discovered the certifications. So what I was
Mm-hmm.
doing my post degree, my postdoctorate degree, I was doing certification at the same time. And oh my God, I felt so in love. But at the same time, I think digital forensic, it's a very complex creature. When I get there, there's a lot. There's many um, areas you can specialize. And I say, what I'm going to do. So I pick one, two, three, and try and error. Which one I connected, and finally, computer and mobile forensics. Those are the ones that I really connected. Most mobile forensics, smartphone, etc.
Girl after my own heart.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, what is next? So I started to doing projects with law and order officers as a consultant, just to be shadowing them and
Mm-hmm.
learn from the experience, learn from the field, and that eventually come naturally me, and then I devoted, I would say, 80% of my practice into digital forensic now.
I
Crazy,
love
no?
that. I love that. I love that. And it's really interesting because I know you've been doing research in IoT, and one of your first interests was how does technology apply to agriculture while you were working on both of these. And what's fascinating is when you went to school, it probably didn't. But
Now it makes sense.
now that application is everywhere, and we need people who know how to investigate crimes that happen at the scale of corporations and agra and the intersection of IoT and sensors that are being used in manufacturing and what happens when an organization gets hacked. You and I were talking before the show about that intersection of the digital and the physical world. And after hearing your story, that makes so much sense now, too, because your whole life's been about that intersection. That's really cool.
And people surprised when I talk about agriculture and say, agriculture, technology, forensics? What are you talking about? And today, as you mentioned, makes more sense because we have so many IoT devices that we can use to increase and to help agriculture to be at the maximum production, to address some issues in agriculture. But at the same time, we open a big door of how we are going to investigate those devices when a crimes occur. So for me, it is like a be in a bridge between these two worlds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know if there's one thing you're always doing, you're always researching something.
Yeah. Yeah.
what if, what's your current deep dive area of research today?
Um, I would say deepfake technology.
Oh wow.
Deepfake from deepfake video, deepfake audio, because I encountered that as a digital forensics examiner, one of the biggest challenges that we have today is how we are going to authenticate this type of videos and audio. And it surprised me how easy it is to create a deepfake video and deepfake audio. How
Yep.
easy. For me, it's like creating this big ball of snow that you cannot control it. So for me, right now, that is the area that caught my attention. So I've been researching, I've been writing and investigating because in the digital forensic field, I wanted to develop a set of guidelines to help me, and I think it will help the community. And I appreciate this opportunity because I also can talk to other in this community that are interested in digital forensics and deepfake video, and then we can come together and start writing some guidelines. Because
Yes.
if you look out there, there's nothing right now about how we are as a community address the issues of deepfake, how authenticated the evidence, even the tools. I mean, using artificial intelligence today to combat artificial intelligence
Yes.
today, it is the big issue today. So I've been researching, and I wanted to create a group, if it's possible, with people that are interested to develop guidelines in that
Well,
area
let's
particularly.
let's put that call out here today. I mean, I see people who are really excited in the chat already. Sheila Flores, by the way, mentioned that you're absolutely amazing. She said Dr. Cabellas is amazing. And there's
Thank
some
you.
comments about how incredible your journey is from academia to the field. So I just wanted to share that people are loving hearing your story. And I think that I love the fact that you're making this call out. So if there are folks in the community who are interested in researching the impact of deepfake technologies and how we can authenticate them. That is it's an interesting quandary because if people are saying it's not a problem, it's only because they don't know it's in their data, right?
Exactly.
It's that whole thing where we don't know what we don't know, and I think it's a brilliant concept. We look at things. How many of us, when we create test data, use thispersondoesnotexist.com to
Exactly.
pull an AI generated face and use it as our avatar for our
Uh,
test data, right? I know I do.
I do
I
too.
know that I pulled this X does not exist, and that's how I create my test data with things so I know I'm not impinging on the real world. But how do we authenticate that someone actually was using a real profile picture, that they really are who they say they are? And I don't know of grand research projects into this, or even more importantly, guidelines for the community to follow. So I just think that this is great, and I encourage, if you're out there and you are interested in this, please, please, please reach out to Dr. Curbelo. Her Twitter handle is right below her name here, and you can reach out to her a variety of ways. And let's make this happen, right? Like, let's
Yes.
make this happen. Let's bring together a group of people who are interested in this.
And I love to create a community. One of the things that helped me through the journey in digital forensic is that you need to be updated all the time.
Yes,
And the challenge is, how do you be updated when you are working so many hours?
yes,
And I found a relief in groups of chats and people. I admire a lot of people from the academia and from the data forensic field that are willing to share the knowledge. Alex Bignoni, for example, I know that you know Alex. I love his work and the way that he shares his knowledge and creating of tools. And I think being in this field, that is all about sharing information, and then that way we can be updated all the time.
so one moment. Oh, or I think we're back. There we go.
They you lose me, and I was
I
about to
did,
say
I
something else.
did, but that's okay. We're back. We're back. You were mentioning
Alex
people
Bignani.
sharing. You were mentioning Alexis Brignoni, one of my favorite humans.
Yes, and I was mentioning him because one thing that I admire is that in this community we have to share our knowledge. And the way that we grow and the way that we kind of perfect our technique is to sharing, is to have this Slack community. I mean, and it's amazing when I feel very blessed to have contact with people that have more experience than me, and you can reach out and talk, and they just help you. And that's the way that this community of data forensic we can grow and we can address some issues no matter in which part of the world you are.
100%. I would say maybe this is an opportunity. Andrew Rathbun, I don't know if you're listening, but for the Digital Forensics Discord server to have a channel specifically around deepfakes. Maybe there is one, and I'm not aware of it. So somebody tell me if I'm missing that channel. But that's a good place to find community around a specific topic. I love that. And you're right. It's this whole concept of how do we keep up, and really we need to share with each other. We need to be able to find those resources. I love the importance of that. Do you have maybe a story from the field that you'd be willing to share today about how maybe a case study?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, and there was a very, I don't say, maybe it was a sad story, but also a story that triggered something amazing. I did have a case with two teenagers under 16 years old. They were exploring their sexuality. So they were using their cell phone to record that special moment, because that's what they do now.
Yeah.
This generation are very open, and they were sharing that, they were recording that, and the female, after the fact, she decided to drop the guy and say, "Hey, we break up. You go your way, I'm going mine." And the guy decided to revenge, publishing the video through any social media channel that he can find. He also used the chat from the school to share the video, and of course that triggered a lot of criminal cases and civil cases. And my client is the guy, is this 16 years old kid. And what was a twist point of this conversation is that his father is a policeman.
Oh.
And for him, that his boy being involved in this type of situation, now we have been in a court process for about 2 years, and he's facing jail time, 16 years old, because they don't know how to manage or how to use technology or the risk of technology. In that particular case, trigger an initiative from my organization, from Digitech. I decided to devote 40 hours in a year of my time to go to school and instruct parents and kids about the risk and the use of technology for example, sexting, grooming, and talk about the risk. And I devoted one of my module, I typically do 1 hour. I mean, it's completely free. School can call me, and I go to the school, and I always recruit parents and kids together. And we talk about ethics. We talk about four values that I pick, because for me it was the most relevant values to address this issue. The first one is integrity. I talk about when you use in technology, what is integrity about? How do you protect your information? How do you protect others? Honesty, responsibility, and finally self-discipline. And it generates a very nice conversation about the responsibility of using smartphones and the consequences of when you do something like this. And sometimes I bring up this teenager, so he speaks up about his experience.
Oh,
and
he speaks
others.
about his experience.
He speaks
Wow.
about his experience, and he talks. I mean, he's very ashamed of what he did, and now he is addressing the consequences for that. And I decided, his father was agree, as I mean, to teach them a lesson. And it is very nice, and it's very real when you have the real person, which is him, talk about his experience and the consequences. And I think that case, I mean, it's a forensic complex case, but ended and triggered into a lot of new opportunity to educate.
I love the fact, again, this seems like a common theme in your career, Aury, is that you find opportunities of things from a technical perspective, the digital forensics that you were doing on this case, to turn it into a moment of preventing harm to other children. As digital forensics examiners, if we're looking for ways to give back, which I know is something you and I are both very passionate about, to finding ways to give back to our communities, that you can, as a digital forensics examiner, I'm speaking to all of you, you can go out there, and I've done this before. I used to do this at a girls' camp when in Virginia, You can go and do sessions where you talk about responsible use of technology, because there are so many things that this is a child exploitation distribution crime. And that is no joke. You're talking about sex registry
Oh,
registration for the
exactly.
rest of your life. You're talking about, and at 16, you can be handled multiple ways, right? And it's, I know people who have lost, or not know, but have looked at cases where young people have lost their scholarships, they've lost their acceptances to colleges because of things that they've done online, and things like revenge porn, sexting, cyber stalking, with sharing of your location, grooming, even human trafficking can be results of the way that kids use technology. So what a great inspiration that all of us can try to emulate what you've done and speak to our local middle schools and high schools about all around the world about what we can find as forensicators from data. I mean, like, the fact that your Snapchat chats don't go away, right? They can be recovered. Things like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
We can make a difference.
And it's amazing. And I encourage people that in my field to try this. When you go to a high school and you show a piece of the digital forensics process and how you can have access, for example, a deleted chat from WhatsApp, a deleted photo, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a deleted shot from Facebook, and you pull out and say, "Hey, you think you deleted? Let me show you some magic here." And it's not magic; it's a hard work. But
Right, 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 right.
when people see that and say, "Oh my God, so nothing is deleted," no, no, we can recover things, and that gives another perspective to the person who's using technology, and that's what I call self-discipline. The
Yeah,
self-discipline value is I'm aware of if I do this, that will be the consequences, and then you make an informed decision based on facts. And
right.
that's my job as a professional. I mean, evidence is there, evidence talk, and I hear the evidence
Yes,
talking to me,
yes.
and it's my job to present the evidence.
And I love this because you're also teaching, not only are you teaching teens how to be more secure, but you're also teaching victims that they may have avenues of advocacy, that they may have avenues of investigation that they didn't know existed. Because in every audience, there's going to be a mixture of people with different experiences, and everyone's going to read it to their own experience. So if there are victims in an audience, and statistically there will be, of crime, there will be victims, maybe they'll realize that maybe their digital evidence can help stop or prevent somebody else from being harmed in a way they've been. So I think that that advocacy and that knowledge that you're sharing does even more. Like, it's so powerful.
But
I,
actually, Jessica, I'm using that to recruit ladies that want to study digital forensics because at the end of this interaction with the school, there's a lot of question about, hey, I can study this, where I can study this, where I can prepare myself for this. So you kind of inspire ladies and girls to study in this field because, and we talked about that before this program, the gap that we encounter, and
yes.
me as a university professor, the gap that I encounter in girls, ladies that want to study and wanting to getting into this field, there's a gap, and we need to close that gap to providing example, mentorship, and opportunities. Myself, I encounter myself many times in many of the courses. Me, the only lady, only woman there. So that type of activity encourage others to study this type of field.
I think you're right. There are so many people who don't even know that this career exists. And when people see that they can apply technology, be in a STEM field, and do good with their work, even though you're not doing specifically, excuse me, a career talk, people are being exposed to what you do and how you solve crimes. And then they're like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm also a professor, just as you are, and not to the same degree. I am not a PhD. I have not been teaching for 18 years, but I can tell you, I can openly say I have 0 female students this term in my
And
mobile device forensics course, and
scary.
that is scary, because there are very technical and capable women. So I love the fact that another offshoot of your outreach is the promotion of more people being aware of our field and getting involved, because sometimes it's just an awareness thing, and you're getting approached by people are saying, hey, I want to do this. And I would say I've had that same experience when I speak to young girls. People are like, I didn't even know that was a career option. I didn't know that it exists. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know it existed when I started either. It's amazing just how much the awareness, all the different levels of good that are happening when you do this. So I hope that the other digital forensics examiners here are enthralled by this and that they do this. So you've been working in digital forensics for a while, and you're actively working casework. What's the biggest challenge you're seeing today?
There are a couple. The first one, I would say, the high demand for digital forensics specialists and the shortage in the workforce. Working in digital forensics requires extensive training, require knowledge in legal, and require to be work quickly and effectively, and require a lot of patience and a strong, I think it requires a strong ethical values.
Absolutely.
I encounter sometimes challenges I work directly with lawyers and law assistants. And sometimes when I produce a report, they might not like the results. And that's
It
the
doesn't
time.
matter. Data's data.
Yeah. And then you need to be strong and you need to be ethical, because sometimes they kind of try to twist your arm and say, hey, it would be nice if we said it this way. And I say, no, this is
Good.
what it is. I mean,
Right.
data is talking, evidence is talking. I mean, my report is final. And sometimes you have to have a strong will to battle against that. So high demand for digital forensics, especially, it's one of the challenges that I see in the next. I'm living right now the challenge. I think it is something that we address immediately. The second challenge is, oh my God, there's a lot of devices out there. I remember when I started this, it was just on network or computer, and nothing in between. And maybe one cell phone, Raspberry, one of these Blackberries, right? Blackberries, and things are challenging and changing now with the growing industry of IoT and the smart houses. Your crime scene goes bigger. I mean, from just to start it from the front door. There's a door opened by Alexa. There is a camera ring button that you have a camera and then you record the entries. Then you go open the door and you have all these microwave refrigerators. Everything's so smart. I mean, the only dumb is you there in the house. The rest of everything is just. And then when you process evidence, you have a lot of these backlogs because you have a lot of tools, tools, not devices there that you need to examine. So how we are going to manage that?
Right. And devices that there aren't as well documented resources as to how you're going to get into them, how you're going to handle them, methodologies. It takes, in order to apply methodologies to things you've never seen before, takes education and takes that background. So I think that both of the challenges that you mentioned, both the lack of trained and experienced digital forensic specialists today, compounded with the scale of the landscape and the differentiating data sources as we look at IoT, when you bring those two things together, we lack even more.
Exactly.
Because we lack the experience as a community. There are definitely people who do have that experience, but it's how do we scale our knowledge to apply to these people? That is a huge,
Even
huge challenge.
even 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 the sexual toys today, you
Right?
can go mobile, and then we have to address those issues and not be ashamed. I mean, those are devices that have evidence, and we need to talk about that. We need to talk about how these devices invite our privacy and how we are using those devices to discover evidence to. I mean, there's a lot of issues regarding IoT today that we need to address in our community. How to manage, how to discover, how to authenticate. I mean, there's a lot of issues out there.
And or you bring up a good, valid point that when we're talking about crimes, a lot of times we're talking about crimes that aren't things that are necessarily in quote unquote polite society.
Exactly.
And when we're talking about things such as IoT connected sexual devices, the problem can be is that you can actually have remote execution of sexual abuse where something in a digital world is translating to the physicality and there is a physical victim. It's not just a credit card number that's stolen. It's not PII. It's not ransomware. It is somebody can be physically assaulted by
Okay.
internet connected devices. And it could be a trusted partner who is given access and maybe has been denied access and keys, tokens are still resident. It could be someone who has found an exploit and your device happens to be on Shodan. So there are potentials for crimes in ways that people don't have the risk awareness that their device could be exploited and could cause them harm because they don't know that their trusted partner, who they now are no longer a trusted partner with, who they've changed a password with, that a security token could potentially give them still access. And how do we address those from a technology issue, a discovery issue, and then a legal issue, right? Where does the crime lie? So it is a fascinating topic, and we need to address those issues. So I love the fact that that you bring it up because it is important to think about.
And
Um,
the other thing is that where the crime is committed because of
mm,
the cloud and all this law and how do you access the information, it brought out also another critical issue. I mean, sometimes I have cases that are in Puerto Rico, but their system are located in the cloud in Virginia, or the system are located in Europe, and then you have to deal with a lot of jurisdiction process. And I say, hey, in top of my work trying to finding the solution, I have to deal with this problem of boundaries. And I think as much as we move for, and I think pandemic kind of opened that, the universality of the devices and where they are located, and how we as
mhm.
society can cross those boundaries and have arrangement to cooperate between states, between countries. And that will be something that will be a problem or will be an opportunity to us to start crossing those boundaries and start cooperating with each other in terms of digital forensics.
Yeah, I think you're right that sometimes it's not the technical issues, right? Like you are a technical researcher. You're always figuring out how to get into these devices, how to get data, what that data means. But sometimes we spend our time not just on the technical content or even explaining to lawyers and judges, but we have to spend time contemplating the actual legal process, the jurisdictional concerns, the where data resides, how do we and there isn't international um, consortium around that. And sometimes the policy level is really the level that becomes more complex and deals a lot of times with that intersection that you were referencing of both privacy and forensics. Security and forensics, that intersection is sometimes adversarial
I
and
agree.
sometimes very in line with each other. And when we're talking about policy, sometimes policy isn't informed enough to have that nuance. And I love the fact that you bring that up. It's
Good. Yeah, I
it's
agree.
it's a that's a great challenge that I don't know how to solve.
Me neither. Me neither.
But
But
it's the things that we have to be thinking about and talking about and having technical folks in the room being part of those conversations so that policies and those constraints don't jeopardize truth and justice.
I
It's
agree.
it's brilliant. So you mentioned a bit about the fact that you felt that one of the areas that is a challenge is folks getting into the field. And I feel like sometimes there's almost a catch-22. There are
Mm.
folks who are looking to get into the field, and we're starved as a community for having talented folks. So, what are your recommendations for folks who are looking to get started in the field?
The first is to join mentorship groups. Look for a group that you find people with commonalities and people that are willing to share knowledge. That's the first. Read what they post and get close to them. Ask
Mm,
questions, participate, expose yourself. I mean, there's nothing. My grandpa used to say, it's better to be stupid 1 minute and stupid the whole life because you are afraid to ask.
wow,
So,
that's
so
great.
yeah, and being a part of this group will help you if you started in this field to expose yourself, to know the people around, to know the challenge. Look for, I mean, internet is a beautiful tool. They have abundance of tools and resources. When you are in this field, you need to be very self-driven. You need to be
Yes.
a person with a logical and independent mind. You have to be very meticulous. You pay attention to details. You have to have excellent written and oral communication skills. But the only way you can address those is if you expose yourself. The second and the last, and I think it's the most important, is be patient.
Mm.
Patient is something that we need to develop, and in the time will develop because when you start processing evidence, it will take a while. It will take a while. So I think it is if you have those quality and if you are not afraid to ask questions, to expose yourself, I think that's the very good way to start in this field. And
Or
find a person that you think is a role model and start calling and start talking to this person and then maybe you find a mentor for the rest of your life because this is how will make us great. I mean, the ability to share, the ability to take somebody under the wing and explain them, and that's what educator does. That's what
yes.
when you have this goal and this passion, it just talk by itself. I mean, that's what it is.
I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more about the importance of finding mentors and mentorship. I'd say there's something really cool that we're doing that I'm really excited about at the Magnet Virtual Summit this year. And May 19th, within the summit, is a mentorship day. And as part of that mentorship day, there's a couple of different opportunities. And one of them is that you can sign up for a one-to-one session with a mentor. Now, the mentors who have signed up and are willingly and graciously giving their time because they want to give back and they want to meet you, you can actually sign up for those one-to-one sessions. There's a limited number of them available. But I just actually dropped the link as Magnet in the chat. And if you go to that, you can do register here. It's separate than your MVS registration, and that is intentional, mainly in case folks have to share their MVS registration with their employers or with other people. We did want to provide that opportunity for that to be private. And you will be paired with a mentor, and you can give your goals there. So we ask that you upload your resume so that your mentor knows a little bit about you before you jump in. Um, but you will get that session and you can do a resume review. You can do a mock interview if you want. You can talk about your goals and maybe ways for you to break into the field. Or these are very senior people in forensics who have a lot of experience. So even if you're more experienced and you're like, how do I grow? And then additionally, we're providing some other opportunities and some Discord channels that are really, really cool. I have a blog post coming out about this later this week, but you just made me think about it, Aury. There's several organizations that are going to be there, as well as educational institutions, and they will all have channels on the Discord that morning from 9 to 1 Eastern time, as well as I think we have 7 or so companies that are hiring. that are doing a virtual career fair. So we've got a virtual career fair, a virtual education fair, and a virtual organization fair. And I would say it's a great opportunity to find out about some of the digital forensics professional organizations too, which will give you those opportunities to network if you're interested. So I hope people take advantage of the mentorship day. It's like an event within an event. And there's also 4 talks that day that are really geared towards mentorship. So there are talks there for leaders, as well as for people who are looking to give back, as well as for people who are looking for mentorship. So anywhere you are in your career, this mentorship day is for you. If you want to be a mentor, if you are looking for a mentor, and we all should be doing that at all stages in our life, right? Like, you will never stop looking for mentors. And at any stage you are, you can have a mentee because you have some experience to share with somebody else from behind you. So I don't care if you're a first year in the field, you have experience. I don't care if you're a student in this field, you have an experience to underclassmen. And that's how we grow, and you develop your network, and you develop your cadre of your supporters and the people who help you realize you can do this, and the people you can lean on when you don't have that technical knowledge, that you can ask those questions like your grandfather said. And so, yes, please, everyone, do as Aury suggested. Find mentors, find mentees, connect with others. It's hard in the virtual world, but there are lots of opportunities to do it. So yeah, thank you. That's
one thing I learned from this industry is that I cannot do it data forensic alone. I mean, you have to surround yourself with people that help you, and they're specialized in different areas. Because at the beginning, I was struggling. Where area should I specialize? What I should do? And then once you find your path, you need to lead and integrate in your group other people. I mean, there's this little piece of the puzzle that you can each one have a role, and you grow in a society that teach you, hey, you're independent, you work alone. Even when you go to school, you are assignment, or you do your own assignment, group studies, group project. People are like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But in the industry, in the real life,
yes,
nobody does it alone. You have to have people that help you through the process, people that provide you another perspective, another view. And you need to learn that it's okay not to know everything.
Yes.
And give a space to other people to teach you and mentor. And I agree with you. It doesn't matter if you are 50, 60 years old, how many years in your career, there always something new you can learn every single day.
And maybe, for me, and I hope other people feel this way, one of the coolest things about digital forensics is that it is always changing, right? You've been in this field a long time, and now you're researching bleeding edge things like deep fakes and the integration of using AI to challenge deep fakes. You've done a lot of research on IoT. That's always changing. That didn't exist, as you mentioned, when you started, and it was just phones and computers, or mainly computers and networks. And, so in this field, I think there is a certain amount of humility that is required in order to be a good forensics examiner, because on every case, you have to accept that the storage of data you previously know may have changed, and there may be something you've never seen before. But that's what you've got to embrace and be excited about, right? And it's that humility. And also that, it's when you bring up the network and the mentorship, and you need those people who may have those other niche areas of expertise, or may have seen that app before, or may have worked on that device before, to all come together and share what we know. And you have to share what you know, because it's going to help somebody else. And I think it's just, none of us have worked every type of data, every app, every source. Exactly. None of us have that. None of us have worked every case. And so you'll never know everything. And when you accept that, you can be a good examiner, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And I love the fact that you bring that up, that we're always learning. And the humility that's required, the networking that's required, that's part of what can make you a good examiner. It's not all about being able to do decoding or hex conversions in your head, or knowing the exact location in a log where you've seen that. That's not everything.
No, the professional growth and the dynamics that grow between exchanging, and I felt myself sometimes arguing with other forensics expert with me, and we have this argument and say, no, you're wrong, no, you're right, and then we challenge each other, and at the end it's about respect and to know where is the middle ground and
Mm-hmm.
try to do the best as we can.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Aury, for sharing all of your wisdom, your stories, your background, and your advice with us today. Just amazing stuff. If you're not following Dr. Curbelo, you should. She puts out outrageous, amazing technical content and is just such an inspiration with the ways she gives back. Thank you, Aury.
Thank you all for the invitation, and just keep talking and we keep growing in this community. That's what we need.
Thank you. Before we go, I just want to share some upcoming events. If you're looking for those opportunities to network and meet people, like what Aury was mentioning, in 2 weeks is the National Cybercrime Conference. And I'll actually be there. I'm doing a talk with Gray Shift about recovering data from the keychain and using that. In addition, coming up, KernelCon is April 30th. There's a Hack Live portion. It's going to be around forensics. Check that out. And then throughout the whole month of May, in addition to the Mentorship Day, the Magnet Virtual Summit will be happening with talks, CTF, DFIR Fit, the 50th episode of Cash Up, which will be fun, and featured presentations from Matt Mitchell, Brett Shavers, Brian Krebs, all kinds of great stuff. So check that out. In terms of live events, Techno Security is live in Myrtle Beach, June 5th, I believe it starts. I'll be there talking about some Chromebook forensics. So I hope to see you there and much more. Next week, our guest is the one and only Steve Watson. For more about our schedule, check out magnetforensics.com/cash-up for links to the RSS feed and what's coming up. We have some really cool stuff coming up. We'll have Maddie Brumbelow, who's been helping with the MVS CTF, coming up after that. Jed Saluba and Jeff McGillivray as our guests the first week of MVS, our special 50th episode live from MVS, which will be a lot of fun, and more. So we'll see you next time. Bye.